Hey there, Ron Sullivan, your online hitting consultant, with a very crude example over here on the right of how the anatomy works. I don't want this to be mistaken for this is exactly how the swing works, so please save your ebooks that you're going to send me. And oh man, it really is just to show why young players have such a difficult time with staying on the ball, right? And how staying on the ball is often misunderstood, and that a lot of people think that, especially in the rotational world, right? A lot of people think that the body just begins to start rotating. As soon as the player lands, that the body just starts to begin spinning in a circle. And I'm going to try to show, just very basically in the top right, why the body rotates in the swing. For the most part, look, my lower body is completely absent. The unload of the lower body will definitely help with the body's turn in the swing, but just a very basic understanding on the top level here, just of how the body works in the swing. So you'll see that my top hand arm in the top right and Joey Gallo's top hand arm are basically slotting at this point. This is where the body will start to naturally turn more. Right? So there's a phase in the swing where we have to stay on the ball. When we begin to unload the swing, you don't just start turning your body, you'll spin off the ball. Right? And so in this phase of the swing, the hands begin to unload to the inside. Right? And now the rotational forces of the swing are now in a position where they're going to be helpful. Right? And so as my top hand arm, I want you to see this, as my top hand arm begins to go out front, right? My body's naturally going to turn. Right? I'm just reaching out like a handshake there. I'm not trying to emulate hitting. I'm just reaching out like a handshake. My body's naturally going to begin to turn as I begin to reach out with the top hand. My shoulders are going to turn, right? I suppose I could reach out with my hand and not allow my shoulders to turn, but that wouldn't be very natural, right? And so that's exactly what you see up there in the top right. And I think you can see that the rotation, basically speaking, right? The upper half is a lot like Joey Gallo's there, without a bottom hand helping in this situation. The top hand reaching out is going to naturally make my body begin to turn, right, as I go forward. Now, we see a completely different monster here, right? And this is very typical, and I do lots of evaluations, right, where this is probably 95% of kids 10 and under that come to see me. This is the movement they use, right? And so what the differences in how I'm set up here are to show something. Whenever pros, good players, land in their weight shift, they have everything back, right? When young players land, right, it's a compensation because they have late tendencies and late movements. The swing pattern that you're going to see in the bottom right is why young players are always late. Well, one of the reasons, right? And but this is where they land in their weight shift oftentimes, right? And so there's no unload. And so what young players have to instantly go to, and this is why you see them, the difference, right, when we're always, hey, you're pulling off the ball and so forth, is because if you land with your elbow jammed in your side, right, your body can't naturally extend that arm. The joints don't work very well like this, right? They just don't work in that direction. And so their body is going to instantly start to turn. The shoulder turns out of the way, right? And then the arms and hands catch up. Ultimately, this is what we call bat drag, barrel drag, whatever you want to call it. When the elbow leads the hands, right, only thing that a player can do from this position is turn out of the way. Right? You have to turn to get everything to catch up because the top hand arm does not have a natural extension point. It's got the joints again don't work in this direction, so you'll see them turn. And so the biggest problem with this move, right, is that the top hand arm is completely non-existent. Right? So if you're looking for more power in your young player's swing, stay away from the big leg kick. Maybe look a little closer at how this swing is unloading, right? If their elbow is leading, then their top hand arm is not helping drive through. It's pivoting around, right? And this is why you'll see players that can't use the whole field, right? They'll oftentimes hit it opposite way because one of the things one of the characteristics of a player that goes opposite field on purpose is that their top hand arm is free to extend in that direction. Sorry, I can't, it's two-dimensional. But their top hand arm will be pointing in that direction. So if this is an inside pitch, right, he gets his hands in this position to drive and pull it over the right field wall, If it's an outside pitch, right, he'll be able to extend that top hand arm in this direction ever so slightly towards shortstop, if you will. Well, with young players, if you see over here in the bottom right, they're always depending on the rotation of that top hand arm. So they're never really using it. If you look at the difference on the right, of the top right and the bottom right, there's completely absent. And that's why your player, if they have this tendency, they can't, you're always talking to them about pulling the ball more. Well, they can't pull the ball. The only way they're going to do that is they're going to have to be really spinny, right, to get their body to spin more to get the barrel further out front. And so if you think about where the barrel would be in relationship to where I am at in the bottom right, the barrel is going to be way back here dragging, right? So it's really important that this basic understanding of what I'm doing there in the top right has to be present in your player's brain. If they're always jamming the elbow down into their side to help pull the barrel around, you're just going to see a player that's going to struggle. Now, one of the hard parts about this is I see this a lot at coach pitch levels, obviously in T-ball. Players, this is the fastest way they can swing the bat. They use their body as leverage to flip the bat around. But at some point, probably 12 to 13, when boys become young men, when girls become young ladies, right, their muscles start to get bigger, they're faster, they're quicker, and the pitching gets better. And when the pitching gets better and you don't have, or you have your position like you see there on the bottom right, you're not going to be able to make adjustments. The hands are completely dependent on the body turning, and so you're not going to be able to take your hands to make adjustments, right? So if I have a pitch on the outer half, that top hand arm has to be free to move in that direction. If I have an inside pitch, the top hand arm has to be able to help to get to the inside pitch, right? So this is why a lot of times I'll see players and the parents will say, oh, he or she only hits the ball the opposite field, never pulls the ball, never hits the ball hard to left center, so forth. Well, it all is because of this, not understanding how the anatomy works fundamentally, right? And this is what you should spend a lot of time working with your young players. There's so many great videos out there of advanced stuff, right? But if I were you, I would concentrate and focus on helping your players understand how to get inside, how to get your body into the right position so the rotational forces of the swing will work. If your player is just depending on just twisting their body in a circle, that's not going to last for very much longer. All right, hey, Ron Sullivan, your online hitting consultant. Thanks.